It's the year 117 AD, and the Roman Empire has never been bigger. Marcus stands on a hill, looking out over the endless city of Rome. Rome touches 3 continents: Europe, Africa, and Asia. Roads stretch in every direction, connecting millions of people. Marcus smiles proudly as legionaries march past in perfect formation. Markets overflow with silk, spices, and grain from distant lands. "We are unstoppable," Marcus whispers, watching the Colosseum crowd roar. But even the mightiest empires have quiet cracks forming underneath. Marcus doesn't notice yet. Nobody does. Not really. This is the story of how it all came apart. The empire now stretches over 2 million square miles. Marcus traces a giant map, his fingers sliding for miles. A message from Rome to the edges takes months to arrive. By the time orders reach the frontier, the crisis has changed. Marcus frowns, tapping the map where the borders look thin. Governors far from Rome start making their own decisions. Some grow more loyal to their armies than to the emperor. "How do you rule something you can't even see?" Marcus asks. The empire is now too vast for one man to control. Size, it turns out, is its own kind of danger. Running an empire this size costs an enormous amount of money. Marcus counts coins at a table, his brow furrowed with worry. Armies need pay, cities need bread, roads need repair. To stretch the budget, emperors start mixing silver coins with cheap metal. Marcus bites a coin and frowns. It feels lighter than before. Prices for bread and oil begin climbing higher every year. Merchants shake their heads as customers count out more coins than before. Marcus watches a baker turn away a customer short on coins. Trust in Roman money is quietly slipping away, and when people stop trusting money, empires start to wobble. Emperors are supposed to bring stability, but that starts to change. Marcus watches a new emperor crowned in a grand ceremony. Within months, whispers of betrayal spread through the palace halls. Marcus overhears guards muttering nervously near a marble column. The emperor is assassinated. The crown changes hands again. Marcus stares in shock at the empty throne room. Another leader rises, backed by loyal soldiers with swords drawn. "Who's even in charge anymore?" Marcus asks, rubbing his temples. "Power now belongs to whoever the army decides to support." This is where things start moving very, very fast. The year is 235 AD. Welcome to the crisis of the 3rd century. Marcus counts on his fingers as another emperor is declared. In 50 years, Rome sees over 20 different emperors. Most are killed by their own soldiers within months. Marcus watches 2 rival armies clash in a dusty field. Civil wars drain soldiers and gold that should defend the borders. Marcus winces as he hears of another region breaking away. Gaul and Palmyra even declare themselves separate from Rome entirely. The empire is fracturing from the inside, piece by piece. Marcus sits down heavily, realizing how fragile it all is. In 284 AD, a tough general named Diocletian takes the throne. Marcus watches Diocletian raise a hand, calling for order. Diocletian has a bold idea: split the empire to save it. Marcus tilts his head, curious as a new map is unrolled. One emperor will rule the west, another the east. Marcus watches 2 thrones being placed side by side. Each half gets its own army, capital, and administration. Smaller pieces might be easier to defend, Marcus murmurs thoughtfully. For a while, the plan actually seems to work, but dividing power also plants a seed of permanent separation. Years later, Emperor Constantine looks toward the eastern horizon. Marcus watches Constantine pointing at a small Greek town called Byzantium. Constantine decides to build a dazzling new capital right there. Marcus gasps as golden domes and walls rise from the ground. The city is renamed Constantinople, gleaming with wealth and trade. Marcus walks through packed markets, admiring the city's energy. Meanwhile, old Rome in the west starts feeling forgotten. Marcus glances back west, noticing crumbling buildings and quiet streets. Resources and attention drift steadily eastward, toward the new capital. The west is being left to fend for itself. By 395 AD, the split becomes official and permanent. Marcus stands between 2 banners, one east, one west. 2 separate emperors now rule 2 separate halves of Rome. Marcus shakes his head slowly, sensing the danger in this. The wealthy east can afford strong armies and thick walls. Marcus looks east, seeing well-fed soldiers guarding golden gates. The west, however, is poorer, thinner, and stretched dangerously. Marcus turns west, seeing tired soldiers patrolling a crumbling wall. If trouble comes, the west will have far less to fight with, and trouble, unfortunately, is already on its way. Far to the east, a terrifying new force is stirring. Marcus squints at the horizon as dust clouds rise in the distance. The Huns, fierce horse warriors, sweep in from Central Asia. Marcus flinches as thundering hooves shake the very ground. They crash into the lands of the Gothic tribes. Marcus watches Gothic villages burn under a smoke-filled sky. Terrified and desperate, Goths flee toward Roman territory. Marcus sees thousands of frightened families rushing toward the border. They beg Rome for shelter from the Hun onslaught. What Rome decides next will change everything. Roman officials allow the Goths to cross into imperial land. Marcus watches guards waving thousands of refugees through the gate. But greedy officials cheat the starving newcomers out of food. Marcus clenches his fists, watching a corrupt merchant overcharge refugees. Desperate and furious, the Goths take up arms against Rome. Marcus recoils as former guests become open enemies overnight. A rebellion spreads quickly through the Roman Balkan provinces. Marcus watches smoke rise from burning Roman farmland. Rome sends its legions to crush the uprising, but the Goths have grown stronger and angrier than expected. In 378 AD, Roman and Gothic armies meet near Adrianople. Marcus stands at a distance, gripping his staff tightly. Emperor Valens leads the charge, confident of an easy victory. Marcus watches rows of Roman soldiers advance under the sun. Gothic cavalry suddenly slams into the Roman flank. Marcus gasps as dust and chaos swallow the battlefield. Roman formation breaks apart under the surprise attack. Marcus covers his mouth in horror at the retreating soldiers. Emperor Valens is killed, and 2/3 of his army with him. It is Rome's worst defeat in centuries, and a turning point. After Adrianople, Rome's aura of invincibility is shattered. Marcus sits in stunned silence, staring at a battle map. Other tribes take notice. Rome can bleed after all. Marcus watches nervous senators whispering behind closed doors. Roman generals now rely heavily on hired barbarian soldiers. Marcus eyes foreign warriors standing guard inside Roman walls. Loyalty inside the army becomes harder and harder to trust. Marcus overhears soldiers speaking in unfamiliar tongues near the barracks. The line between Roman and outsider is blurring fast. One ambitious Gothic leader is about to test it. His name is Alaric, bold and battle-hardened Gothic king. Marcus watches Alaric's army gather like a storm on the horizon. Alaric demands gold, land, and respect from the Roman government. Marcus paces nervously as Roman officials refuse his demands. Frustrated, Alaric marches his army straight toward Rome itself. Marcus's eyes widen as the city gates are sealed shut. Alaric surrounds Rome, cutting off food and supplies. Marcus watches hungry citizens lining up for dwindling rations. Negotiations drag on while the siege tightens its grip. Rome, the eternal city, has never faced this kind of pressure. On August 24th, 410 AD, the unthinkable finally happens. Marcus stands frozen as the city gates creak open from within. Alaric's soldiers pour into the streets of Rome. Marcus watches torches light up the night as chaos spreads. For 3 days, the city that ruled the world is looted. Marcus shields his face from smoke, drifting over broken rooftops. News of the sack shocks the entire ancient world. Marcus reads a letter, hands trembling. The scholars mourn the event. Rome survives, but its image of invincibility is gone forever. The empire limps forward, weaker and more vulnerable than ever. Decades later, a new terror rises. Attila, king of the Huns. Marcus watches Attila's horsemen thunder across the eastern plains. Attila demands tribute, and both empires pay to keep peace. Marcus counts heavy chests of gold being loaded onto carts. When tribute isn't enough, Attila invades regardless. Marcus ducks as Hunnic riders storm past a burning village. Roman and allied forces finally clash with Attila at Chalons. Marcus watches a massive, brutal battle rage under gray skies. Attila is stopped, but Rome is left exhausted and battered. There is little strength left to recover from what comes next. In 455 AD, another force sets its sights on Rome. Marcus watches ships with striped sails approach from across the sea. The Vandals, led by King Genseric, land near the city. Marcus backs away slowly as Vandal warriors march up the road. Rome's defenses are thinner and weaker than they've ever been. Marcus watches guards abandon their posts along the crumbling walls. The Vandals enter and plunder the city for 2 full weeks. Marcus covers his ears as statues and treasures are carried away. The word vandalism is born from this very moment. Rome has now been sacked twice in less than 50 years. The Western Empire is now a shadow of its former self. Marcus wanders through a quiet, half-empty Roman forum. Emperors come and go quickly, propped up by foreign generals. Marcus watches a young boy placed nervously on the throne. His name is Romulus Augustulus, barely a teenager. Marcus shakes his head sadly at the irony of his name. In 476 AD, a general named Odoacer seizes power. Marcus watches Odoacer calmly remove the young emperor's crown. Odoacer sends the crown east and rules Italy himself. With that quiet moment, the Western Roman Empire ends. Marcus stands alone in the ruins of the old forum. No armies clash, no crowds cheer, just silence and dust. But in the east, the Roman story isn't over yet. Marcus looks toward the horizon, where Constantinople still gleams. The Eastern Roman Empire will survive for another 1,000 years. Marcus smiles faintly, realizing an ending isn't always the end. Rome's laws, language, and roads shaped the world for centuries. Marcus picks up a fallen laurel leaf and holds it gently. Empires rise, empires fall, but their ideas can outlive them, and that is the story of how Rome finally fell.